Are you planning to visit Cappadocia? With its incredible rock formations, ancient underground cities, beautiful cave hotels, and of course, hundreds of balloons taking to the sky nearly every day. Cappadocia has quickly risen to the top of so many people's bucket list over the past few years, and that is for very good reason. If you are considering a trip to Cappadocia, we are here to help. We're Jess and Miles, and throughout our time in Turkey, we have visited Cappadocia on several different occasions at different times of the year. It really is a special place, and we are here to share everything you need to know about visiting Cappadocia.
We are going to cover the location, how to get there, how to get around, the different areas to stay, everything you need to know about booking a hot air balloon ride, what to expect from your hot air balloon experience, our top tips on how to get the most out of your other sunrises while in Cappadocia, other things to do outside of just the balloons, and a few quick thoughts on when to visit, how much time you need, some great foods to try, as well as a couple packing tips.
So it's going to be a lot. So grab a cup of coffee or maybe a glass of wine, settle in, and get ready for all the information you're going to need to plan the perfect trip to Cappadocia.
We're going to start with some basics, and first things first, it's important to know that Cappadocia is actually a region, not a city. So if you've been wondering why, when you type it into Google Maps, you can't get it to show up, that's why. The region of Cappadocia is pretty much right in the center of Turkey. It covers several different districts, but the most popular area of Cappadocia is in the Nevşehir district, which we have highlighted in red. When you take a look inside the Nevşehir district, you'll see that there are several small towns, and this is really the heart of what people are talking about when they say they have visited Cappadocia. We'll break down these different towns a little later so you can determine where you'd like to stay, but for now, let's talk about how you're going to get there.
Real quick, we just wanted to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of this video, GetYourGuide. We have partnered with GetYourGuide before because they offer some really great options for skip-the-line tickets in Istanbul. But they also offer over 100,000 different experiences in 150 countries, including some really great experiences in Cappadocia. They offer things like horseback riding, ATV tours, Jeep tours, unique dining experiences, and of course, hot air balloon rides.
GetYourGuide makes things super easy. They offer 24/7 support and free cancellation for up to 24 hours before your booking. We have put together a list of some of the best activities available in Cappadocia, including the balloon company that we used 2 out of the 3 times that we went up into a balloon ourselves. We will include the links in the description below and in the pinned comments, and we've even created a QR code for the balloon company that we've personally used before. Be sure to check them out before your trip, and don't forget to book early. Okay, let's get back to how you're going to get to Cappadocia.
Chances are pretty high that you will be coming to Cappadocia from Istanbul, and depending on how much time you have some options on how to get from Istanbul to Cappadocia. The fastest way to get there is definitely to fly, and the good news is that domestic flights within Turkey are very reasonable. There are 2 different airports in the Cappadocia region. You have the Kayseri Airport and the Nevşehir Airport. There are plenty of direct and very affordable flights from Istanbul to both of these airports, and the flight time is just over an hour. So this will be pretty quick and easy. As a heads up, both of these airports are a bit far from the main towns in Cappadocia. For example, from the Kayseri Airport to the main town of Göreme, you're looking at just over an hour drive. And from Nevşehir to Göreme, you're looking at about 40 minutes. So you are also going to need a plan about how to get from the airport to your hotel, which we will cover in the next section.
If you're looking for the most economical way to get from Istanbul to Cappadocia, there are several buses available. However, you should keep in mind that it is about a 10 to 12 hour journey. So this is going to take up a lot of time. There are some bus options that go overnight, so if you're somebody who is able to sleep on a night bus, this could be a good option for you. We have personally taken our fair share of overnight buses in our early travels in Southeast Asia, so we have now sworn off night buses at this point in our travels. But we will link a couple of the main bus options in the description.
Alternatively, you can consider a train journey, but there are no direct trains that connect Istanbul to Cappadocia. You can, in theory, string together a couple of different trains and get to Kayseri, but this really only makes sense, in our opinion, if you're already planning to visit somewhere like Ankara or maybe Konya. You can take a train from Istanbul to Ankara, which takes about 4.5 hours, and then you can take a train from Ankara to Kayseri, which takes about 7 hours. Alternatively, if you are wanting to visit Konya, you can take a train from Istanbul to Konya, but then I believe you will have to either take a bus or rent a car to complete your journey from Konya to Cappadocia. So again, we wouldn't really recommend this option unless maybe you're just really into train travel and, like we mentioned, you're already planning to visit Ankara or Konya anyways.
And finally, you can rent a car from Istanbul and turn it into a big road trip. It is over 700 kilometers and will take you around 7 to 8 hours before contemplating any stops. But if you have the time, a road trip around Turkey is an amazing option. We wouldn't necessarily recommend this just to visit Cappadocia. We would only really recommend this option if you're already planning a bigger road trip with multiple destinations. And keep in mind, Turkey is a big country, so be ready for some long driving days. Also, as a side note, if you are planning to do a big road trip starting in Istanbul, we would highly recommend that you take the metro out to SAW and rent your car from there. This is what we've done every time we've taken a road trip from Istanbul.
Once you arrive in Cappadocia, you will need to have a plan for how to get around the area because things are a bit spread out. We have always rented a car at the airport, and this option will give you the most freedom, but depending on how long you're going to be there and what you're planning to do, this is definitely not required. If you don't want to rent a car, you can always get a shuttle or a taxi to your hotel, and especially if you're planning to stay in Göreme, a lot of things are pretty walkable.
There are also bus tours that can take you to many of the sites, including some of the harder to reach ones like the underground cities. Honestly, your accommodation will be more than happy to help you book these either in advance or once you arrive. These are set up kind of like A, B, C tour options, and we've always had a hard time recommending this kind of travel. And if you're like us and you're trying to avoid the crowds as much as possible, it might be best to organize your own form of transportation.
You could always just arrange taxis to take you to some of the harder to reach spots, but we always prefer just to rent a car. And if you are comfortable with the idea of driving in a foreign country, then this will be our #1 recommendation for you as well. Okay, let's move on to where you're going to stay once you get there. You probably noticed on the map earlier that there are multiple small towns in the Cappadocia area to choose from when you're looking at hotels. So to help you narrow down your options, let's take a look at the map.
Here is a map of the area with the different valleys. Just so you have your bearings based on our experience, most mornings the balloons will either fly from east to west starting here and ending here, or from the west to the east starting from this area and ending over here. These are obviously just general guidelines. The wind is the main factor, but the point here is if you're looking to stay in a place with a great view of the balloons, this should help. Göreme is the most popular town where most of the tour operators are located, as well as many great restaurants. If you're not planning to have your own form of transportation, Göreme is definitely your best bet. Most things are very walkable, and there are some great accommodations as well. It's also shaped a bit like a theater, with cave hotels stretching up the hillside facing to the north, which is perfect for viewing the balloons in the morning.
South of Göreme, you have Uçhisar, which is also a great option. This is the highest town with a large castle on top, and you might be a bit further from the main group of balloons, but with the higher vantage point, it offers some incredible views over the whole region. We have also stayed in Çavuşin, which was also nice. This area is a bit more flat, so you don't have that kind of stadium feel like you do in Göreme, but if you are looking for something a bit more quiet and off the beaten track, this is a really good option. We will link the different hotels we have stayed in both Göreme and Çavuşin in the description below.
All right, it's time to talk about what probably has you wanting to visit Cappadocia in the first place, and that is the hot air balloons. If you're visiting Cappadocia, we're assuming that there's a high probability you're at least considering going up in one of the balloons. So we're here to give you all the tips that we have on booking a hot air balloon. Honestly, this section could probably be a video all in itself, so be sure to settle in. And if you're not planning on going in a hot air balloon, that's fine. There are plenty of other reasons to visit Cappadocia. You might just want to skip ahead to this point in the video that we'll put on the screen somewhere.
But for those of you considering booking a balloon ride, this is definitely something you should book well in advance. Honestly, as soon as you have your dates finalized, we would recommend you go ahead and reserve a balloon. Especially during the busier seasons, these can get booked out months in advance. This probably goes without saying, but the balloon flights are going to be contingent on the weather. There is an aviation center that monitors the wind and weather conditions and decides if it's safe to fly each day. It is very regulated, so flying on your scheduled day is not guaranteed, and it's not up to the specific companies to decide, which, let's be serious, is probably a good thing.
However, balloons do fly here around 280 days out of the year, so the odds are pretty good for you. But since it is not guaranteed, we highly recommend that you book your balloon ride for your very first morning in Cappadocia. That way, if it is canceled, hopefully you'll have time to reschedule. Also, you should know that some companies offer both first and second flights in the morning, and we highly recommend that you try to get one of the first flights, which will give you the best chance of being in the air during sunrise.
And on that note, there are a lot of companies that offer balloon rides, and I mean a lot. Companies offer everything from private flights to 28-person baskets with 60 to 75-minute flight times. The pricing is obviously going to vary based on the time of year and the balloon size that you choose. We have flown 3 different times, both by ourselves and with family members when they have come to visit. Each flight has been completely different. We have flown in baskets with 16 passengers, 10 passengers, and 8 passengers. We have flown in very little wind and in wind that was probably right on the edge of the limit. Each experience was different, and honestly, the only thing you can really control is the size of the basket that you book.
The 8-person basket was probably our favorite one. There are 4 different sections with only 2 people in each, plus a center section just for the pilot. And again, we've linked that specific balloon flight in the description below, so be sure to check it out. If you don't want to pay the extra money for the smaller basket, we would recommend looking into the 16-person basket. Those are also broken up into 4 different sections, but they have 4 people in each, plus a separate center section again just for the pilot. We were very comfortable in the 16-passenger flight, and it didn't seem cramped at all. And honestly, no matter what size basket you're in, these pilots are incredibly skilled, and they'll make sure you have the best possible flight.
So now that you know how to book a balloon, you might be wondering what you can expect from the actual hot air balloon experience. Like we said, we have been up in 3 different balloons now with 2 different companies, so we're going to give you a brief rundown of our experience, and we believe that most should be about the same. Again, it is weather contingent, so there are a few different scenarios on how this could go. The Aviation Authority makes the final decision, and the first check is the afternoon prior to the flight. In case you're interested, we will include a link in the description to the website where the Aviation Authority publishes their decision.
And this can also be helpful even if you're not going up in a hot air balloon, so you know if the balloons are going to fly in the morning. Hey, there's no sense in setting your alarm for the sunrise if you already know they're not going to fly. There is a chance if the weather is bad enough that they will go ahead and cancel the flight the night before. This has happened to us. In this scenario, you'll be notified the night before, and at least you won't have to wake up early. And of course, the company will do everything they can to reschedule your flight if possible. But if you get the initial go-ahead, the company that you book with should pick you up from your hotel very early. The time, of course, depends on the sunrise, which varies throughout the year, so they'll let you know the specific pickup time.
After you get picked up, they will likely drive around to pick up other passengers, and then they will take you to their office for a quick bite to eat while you wait for the official green light for your flight.
We like to call this rush hour in Cappadocia because there are tons of vans crisscrossing all over town and chaser trucks getting balloon baskets in position. It really is an exciting time.
If the weather is iffy, there is still a chance that they could cancel the flight the morning of. This has happened to us. It's very sad. But it's the reality, and you need to be prepared for that. I think they continue to check the winds every half hour, but if after 2 or 3 checks the winds are still too high, they will call off the flights for the day.
But hopefully you get the official green light on your very first try. Once you get that green light, you'll get back into the shuttle vans and they'll take you to your specific takeoff point. You should get there while the balloons are still being blown up, which is really fun to see. The balloons are huge and there are tons of them. Like we mentioned, the flights last around 60 minutes, although there are a few flights that are a bit longer, around 75 minutes, but this is also contingent on the wind. If it is a bit windier, the flights could be shorter.
So when you are in the balloon, we are here to tell you that it is everything you have dreamed it to be. It is beautiful, it is magical, it's awe-inspiring, it is truly an unforgettable experience. Also, just as a side note, you can get very, very high in the sky. I think we have gotten to around 3,000 feet on one of our flights, so if you're scared of heights, just,
keep that in mind.
Be prepared for that. And you should be aware that your flight path is going to depend on the winds. Your pilot will typically try to drop you down into one of the valleys, but just don't get your heart set on gliding low through Love Valley. If it happens, great, but our advice would just be to enjoy the flight that you're on. Don't look at those other balloons going through Love Valley and be jealous of them.
You only have 60 minutes in the air.
I did that on our first flight. It's like, why aren't we in Love Valley? That's where I want to be.
Don't spend your precious 60 minutes envious of somebody else's flight.
Just enjoy your own flight. It's going to be amazing no matter what. And finally, after the flight, there is usually a champagne toast, and then the company will drop you back at your hotel in time for breakfast.
So, balloon ride at sunrise? Check. But the morning you go up in a balloon should not be your only early morning in Cappadocia. We would really strongly recommend that you get up every morning for sunrise while you're in Cappadocia. Just be ready for early mornings. It's obviously amazing to be up in one of the balloons, but honestly, watching them from the ground go overhead is a very close second.
And there are so many places to enjoy the sunrise while you're there. You can go to one of the many valleys, there are official viewpoints, there are some unofficial viewpoints, and of course, hopefully you're able to book a hotel with a rooftop terrace that has a view of the balloons. This will definitely be the easiest and most convenient option of all of them because you can just roll out of bed and head straight up to the roof. If it were me and I had 3 mornings in Cappadocia, I would spend the first up in a balloon, the second at my hotel rooftop, and then the third at one of the viewpoints. The bottom line is, even if you never leave your cave hotel, please don't miss a sunrise.
Okay, now that we have shared everything we know about the hot air balloon rides and sunrise, it's important that you know that there is so much more to Cappadocia than just the balloons. There are a ton of other things to see and do in the area. Cappadocia is an ancient region with incredible history. You have entire underground cities built thousands of years ago. These caves were expanded by the early Christians, and some could hold up to 20,000 people.
You also have open air museums, and while the whole area is kind of like an open air museum, there are a few official ones that give you access to the best preserved churches and a very high concentration of cave dwellings. Göreme Open Air Museum is the most popular one, and it is filled with ancient churches and monasteries with 1,000-year-old frescoes, but we have also been to the Zelv Open Air Museum, and we really enjoyed that one as well, so we highly recommend both of these.
There are rock castles and tons of other activities we've already mentioned, like ATV tours, horseback riding, and jeep tours. You can do a cooking class or visit a traditional hammam. And if you're interested in picking up a unique souvenir, there are skilled artisan families that have been making some great ceramics for thousands of years in this area. And finally, there are so many beautiful valleys to explore, which we thought deserved a section all on their own.
The landscapes in Cappadocia are truly out of this world. There are several valleys in the area, and each one has unique rock formations, fairy chimneys, and hiking trails. It's really incredible just how diverse the valleys in Cappadocia are, being so close together. Even if you are not a big hiker, you should definitely still explore the valleys in Cappadocia. You won't have to take on any major or long hike to uncover hidden churches, explore caves, and see some really beautiful views.
Trust us, even when Cappadocia seems really crowded with busloads of tourists congregating at the viewpoints, all you have to do is drop down into one of the valleys on a trail and you'll see just how quickly the crowds just disappear. And if you love hiking like us, you will really enjoy exploring all the different valleys. Here's a map showing the most popular valleys in the region. Each valley is a little different. Let's start with the most famous, which is Love Valley.
Love Valley is known for its tall, phallic-shaped fairy chimneys. This valley is great for short hikes, and it has some really incredible sunrise and sunset views. The Western Rim is one of the most popular spots to watch the balloons at sunrise. We have watched the balloons from here and from down in the valley itself, which was also amazing. Going to the other side of the map, the next most popular valleys are probably Red and Rose valleys. You can spend hours hiking through these two very beautiful valleys, or if you're not looking for a huge adventure, you could just drive your car or take a taxi to this point and spend a little time exploring the area. We really love coming out this way. We even camped on one of the ridges in this area a few years ago, and the views in these two valleys are really hard to beat.
Next, let's go south from Göreme to Pigeon Valley. There is a scenic hike between Göreme and Uçhisar that will take you through Pigeon Valley. The trail starts right at the edge of Göreme, and the valley is named for the ancient pigeon houses that are carved in the side of the rocks you'll see along the way. This can be a great hike in the morning, and you can stop in Uçhisar for lunch and explore the rock castle at the top of the town before just taking a taxi back to Göreme. Or if you're interested in a longer hike, you can connect with Zimi Valley and head back to Göreme by making a loop. Zimi Valley is probably the quietest, with more greenery, less rock formations, and definitely fewer crowds. It is a nice hike if you have some extra time in the area, but it wouldn't be my first valley to explore, or really even my third or fourth.
Another great valley is Sword Valley. This is named after its sharp, pointed rock formations. This valley is located right off the main road near Goreme. It is a great area to explore and really doesn't take too much time to wander around. And the last valley we want to mention is Devrent Valley or Imagination Valley. This is probably one you won't see without having a car or going on one of the bus tours. It is known for its rock formations that look like animals, and this is a popular stop for all the bus tours. To be honest, this one was not our favorite. You can maybe make a quick stop here, but we wouldn't personally recommend going too far out of your way to visit this one.
We have some of our favorite hiking trails in our digital Turkey guide, but no matter what, we definitely recommend you get the Maps.me app and download this area's maps offline, because not only will it help you find the trails, it also has many of the best caves flagged, which is really nice because you could easily walk by some of the most unassuming caves, and without the map you would have no idea that there's an incredible church hiding just inside. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of what to do, how to get there, and where to stay, but let's talk about when you should visit and how much time we think you need to get the most out of your efforts.
I wouldn't say there's any real bad time to visit, but you should know that Cappadocia's weather varies throughout the year. We're not going to try and give you a month-by-month breakdown. You can obviously pretty easily Google the specific month you're looking at and get the details on what you can expect. But you should know that Cappadocia has all 4 seasons with hot summers and cold, snowy winters. Like most places, summer is the high season, winter is the low season, and then you can consider spring and fall to be the shoulder seasons. I think the most helpful information that we can offer you is when is the best time of year for the balloons. If your #1 priority for Cappadocia is flying in a hot air balloon, you should know that the flying season is technically year-round from January to December. That said, they say that the best season is from April to November because you will have a higher likelihood of flying during these months, with the most popular season for the balloons being the summer. The wind is stronger by the end of autumn through early spring, so most of the balloon cancellations are between December and April timeframe.
So now to the question of how many days you need. Honestly, this is a tough one to answer, and it depends largely on how much you prioritize Cappadocia and where else you plan to visit. But we would say, based on how far away it is from Istanbul and the effort required to get there, that a minimum of 3 nights is ideal.
Which means 3 chances for a balloon ride, and then it would still give you some time to fit in some of the other highlights, like an open air museum, one of the underground cities, and of course some exploration of the valleys. If you have more time, of course that's even better. You could easily spend 3, 4, 5 days here, and I promise you wouldn't get bored. On our first trip, we spent 6 nights and 5 full days, and we felt like we barely scratched the surface.
Okay, if you're still here at this point in this video, you probably know by now from us that we can't finish a video without talking at least a little bit about the amazing Turkish food. There are a few traditional dishes that Cappadocia is known for. This is by no means an exhaustive list because this video is plenty long at this point, but we had to at least mention a few things. The first one is testi kebab, which is also known as the pottery kebab, and this is probably the most famous dish in Cappadocia. You have some kind of meat, usually lamb, beef, or chicken, with vegetables, slow cooked with spices in a sealed clay pot. The pot then gets brought out and cracked open at the table, and it really is a fun experience. Next up, we have manti, which are tiny little handmade dumplings filled with minced meat. And it's typically served with a garlic yogurt sauce. This is a staple dish all throughout Turkey, but it is especially popular in Cappadocia.
There is also gözleme, which is one of our all-time favorites. If you have watched any of our other food videos, you will probably have heard us talking about gözleme. It is made with a thin, crispy dough, and it gets stuffed with fillings like cheese, spinach, potatoes, or minced meat. It is cooked on a large iron griddle, usually by an adorable Turkish lady with magical hands. Just a quick disclaimer here before we move on from the food section. In all of our travels throughout Turkey, Cappadocia would not necessarily be an area we would say has the best food. It is a very popular tourist destination. These towns have been built around tourism, so as I'm sure you can imagine, the restaurants are going to reflect that. Don't get us wrong, there are a wide range of restaurants there and you can get some good food, but I just wouldn't say it's a foodie destination in comparison to some of the others. The truth is, we probably have just been spoiled by amazing Turkish food in places like Istanbul and Gaziantep, so we might be a little extra critical, but just come with the right expectations about the food in Cappadocia.
All right, we're gonna finish things up with a couple of quick packing tips. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but there are 2 things we want to mention. You should definitely be prepared with some layers and some warmer clothes. Even in the hotter months, if you're planning on going up in a hot air balloon, it will be cold in the mornings. And you're going to want a jacket, maybe a scarf, maybe even some gloves for when the sun hasn't come up yet and you're 1,000 feet up in the cold morning air. The 3 times we were up in a balloon were in May, September, and October, and all 3 times we had full layers with jackets, scarves, hats, and gloves.
Also, this is probably an obvious one, but be sure you bring comfortable shoes because you will be doing a lot of walking on uneven surfaces. Hopefully you were already planning to bring these anyway for your time in Istanbul, so nothing really new here. But keep in mind, it can be very dusty in Cappadocia, so your shoes will get dirty, and also be sure that they have a good grip because the ground can be slippery when you're walking down in the valleys. We also have a free planning and packing checklist for Turkey, which we will link down in the description as well.
All right, I think that's going to do it for us today. We have tried to put as much information as possible in this video, but if you are looking for more information on Cappadocia, like sunrise and sunset locations, detailed hiking maps, and how to best lay out your itinerary, you should seriously consider getting our full digital Turkey guide.
And if you found this video helpful, we would really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.